I always knew this day would come. Lying in the pre-op room, watching the anesthesiologist prepare his equipment, I couldn't help but smile at the notification that just popped up on my phone. Live sale, Davidson estate clearance. Everything must go. The irony wasn't lost on me. While I was about to undergo triple bypass surgery, my loving family had decided to help by clearing out what they assumed was my modest estate. My sister Amanda's voice rang through the phone's speaker. Everything you see here is available: antique furniture, art, even these dusty old documents. Our brother never knew what to do with any of it anyway. Sir, we need to begin the procedure, the nurse said gently, reaching for my phone. Just one moment, I replied, sending a quick text to Marcus, my estate manager. Protocol 7, activate all recordings. The response was immediate. Already done, sir. All cameras active. Legal team standing by. I handed my phone to the nurse with a peaceful smile. After 15 years of playing the role of the family failure, everything was finally falling into place. The thing about cardiac surgery is that it gives you plenty of time to reflect. As the anesthesia began to take hold, my mind drifted back to that pivotal moment 15 years ago. You're making a huge mistake, James, my father had declared, his voice echoing through our family's mansion. Walking away from Davidson Industries for what? To find yourself. I was 25 then, standing in his opulent office, surrounded by the portraits of 3 generations of Davidson men. My father, William Davidson III, sat behind his massive mahogany desk, while my sister Amanda and brother-in-law Peter stood by his side, wearing matching expressions of disgust. I need to do this my way, I had insisted. There's more to business than hostile takeovers and legacy connections. You're throwing away your birthright, Amanda sneered. Peter has been working his way up through the company properly. He deserves your position more than you do. I remember looking at Peter's smug face and knowing exactly what would happen if I stayed. The Davidson family business would become another soulless corporate machine, focused solely on quarterly profits and shareholder value. The employees who had been with us for generations would be discarded for cheaper alternatives. The community projects my grandfather had started would be shut down to cut costs. So I walked away. Not from business, never from business, but from their way of doing it. What they never realized was that I had learned more from our grandfather than they knew. Old William Davidson I had taught me that true power isn't about having your name on the biggest building or driving the most expensive car. It's about understanding value where others see nothing, and building something meaningful while everyone underestimates you. The next decade and a half played out exactly as I had planned. While my family assumed I was struggling with small-time real estate deals, I was quietly building an empire. Every time they saw me in my old Toyota, they never questioned where the real money was going. When they mocked my shabby house in the old part of town, they never bothered to check who owned the development company that was buying up the surrounding blocks. My grandfather's words guided every move. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. Through shell companies and careful planning, I gradually acquired controlling interests in key properties across the city. While Amanda and Peter focused on making splashy headlines with Davidson Industries, I was systematically building a network of businesses and properties that would eventually give me control of something far more valuable: the very ground beneath their feet. The family mansion they lived in. I bought it through a holding company when they had to refinance 3 years ago. The office building housing Davidson Industries, owned by one of my subsidiaries. Even the exclusive country club where they held their board meetings was now technically mine. But today they had finally overplayed their hand. I drifted in and out of consciousness after the surgery, catching snippets of conversations and beeping monitors. But my phone was already executing the plan I had set in motion years ago. The live stream my sister had so thoughtfully broadcast would serve as perfect evidence. Every casual dismissal of worthless antiques, each carefully curated and worth small fortunes. Every mocking comment about my sad little life, while standing in a house I actually owned, all captured and preserved by my legal team. What they didn't know was that among those dusty old documents they were so eagerly selling were the original property deeds to half the city's historic district, carefully collected over decades. The worthless art they were practically giving away included early works from artists who were now world-renowned. Artists I had supported when they were unknown. But more importantly, what they were really doing was documenting their own unauthorized sale of assets they had no legal right to touch. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Marcus, live stream downloaded and archived. Time-stamped inventory completed. Legal team has everything they need. Perfect. The next phase would begin tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp when the city's land registry office opened. That's when the automated system would update to reflect the true ownership of the Davidson family properties. All of them. Every building, every office, every piece of land that my family thought they controlled would show its real owner. James Davidson, through various legitimate holding companies. The failing son they had written off had spent 15 years building something they couldn't imagine. While they focused on maintaining their public image, I had created a sustainable business empire focused on community development, historic preservation, and responsible growth. My grandfather would have been proud. The recovery room was quiet, except for the steady beeping of monitors, when Amanda decided to pay her dying brother a visit. I kept my eyes closed as she entered, listening to her heels click across the floor. "Oh, James," she sighed theatrically. "I suppose I should tell you what we've done, even if you can't hear me. We've taken care of everything, sold all that junk you've been hoarding. Really, it's for the best. You never did know how to manage anything properly." I remained still, my breathing steady. Let her have this moment. In less than 12 hours, everything would change. "The family's decided it's best if you focus on your recovery," she continued. "We'll handle all your affairs. Peter's already drawn up the papers to transfer any remaining assets to the family trust. For your own good, of course." Of course. I heard her open her designer purse, probably pulling out the papers she wanted me to sign. "I'll just leave these here for when you're feeling better. The nurses can witness your signature." The irony was almost too perfect. While she was trying to seize control of what she thought were my meager assets, the real transfer of power had already begun. Years of careful planning, hidden ownership, and strategic positioning were about to bear fruit. My phone buzzed one final time as Amanda left the room. I waited until her footsteps faded before checking the message. "Marcus, sir, final confirmation. All systems go for tomorrow. The Davidson family empire is officially yours." I smiled, letting the painkillers pull me back toward sleep. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. The morning after my surgery brought exactly the chaos I had anticipated. I was reviewing my vitals on the hospital monitor when my phone erupted with notifications. 9:01 a.m., right on schedule. First came the frantic text from Amanda. "What the hell is going on? The office building security just denied Peter entry." Then from Peter, "James, there must be some mistake. My key card isn't working, and security says we need your authorization to enter." The best one was from my father. "Call me immediately. Something's wrong with the property records." I turned on the TV in my hospital room, switching to the local business news. Right there, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, breaking major shift in downtown property ownership revealed. Davidson Holdings LLC now controlling stakeholder in multiple prime locations. My door burst open as Amanda stormed in, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her perfect hair now disheveled. "What did you do?" she demanded, waving her phone. "Every property is locked. Even the house." I adjusted my hospital bed to sit up straighter, wincing slightly at the movement. "Good morning, Amanda. Should we discuss the illegal sale of my possessions first? Or would you prefer to talk about the unauthorized attempt to seize my assets while I was in surgery?" Her face paled. You were supposed to be unconscious." "I was. But you see, I didn't need to be awake. Everything was already in motion years ago." I picked up my phone, showing her the live stream recording. "By the way, that worthless as Monet sketch you sold for $500. I bought it directly from the artist's grandson, 15 years ago. Its current market value is just over $2.7 million. She collapsed into the visitor's chair. "But you're just a small-time real estate agent. You drive a Toyota." I couldn't help but laugh, though it made my chest hurt. "Amanda, did you ever wonder why that small-time agent could afford to buy properties in the historic district during a market boom? Or why your refinancing application for the mansion was approved so quickly 3 years ago?" The door opened again, admitting Peter and my father. Peter's usually immaculate suit was rumpled, and Father's face was thunderous. Fix this, Father demanded. Whatever game you're playing, fix it now, game. I pressed the call button for my nurse. No game, Father, just business. Though I learned from the best, you always taught us to seize opportunities when we see them. The nurse arrived, looking concerned at the number of agitated visitors in my room. Mr. Davidson needs rest, she started, but I held up a hand. It's all right. They were just leaving to attend an emergency board meeting at Davidson Industries, though they might have trouble getting into the building. I smiled at Peter. The new security system only recognizes authorized personnel. You can't do this, Peter sputtered. The board will never accept. The board? I pressed a few buttons on my phone. You mean the same board that's currently reviewing evidence of financial mismanagement under your leadership? The unauthorized bonuses, the dropped community projects, the pension fund irregularities. Father stepped forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You would destroy your own family's legacy. No, Father, I'm saving it. Grandfather's legacy was never about just making money. It was about building something meaningful. I showed him my phone screen, displaying the property records. Everything I've acquired over the last 15 years has been legitimate and legal. While you were all laughing at my small projects, I was rebuilding the empire the way it should have been. Those properties aren't for sale, Amanda snapped. They don't need to be. I already own them. I pulled up another document, including the family mansion. Check the holding company that approved your refinancing Davidson Heritage Properties. I own 100% of it. The nurse stepped in firmly. Everyone out. My patient needs rest. As they were ushered out, I called after them. Oh, and Amanda, those dusty documents you sold online. Copies, the originals are in my lawyer's vault, along with grandfather's real will. The door closed on their shocked faces. I leaned back, exhausted but satisfied. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Phase 2 ready when you are, sir. The board is assembling. The next few hours would be crucial. While my family scrambled to understand the extent of what had happened, my team would be implementing the changes I'd planned for years. New management structures, restored community programs, employee protections, everything my grandfather had originally envisioned. My chest hurt, but not from the surgery. Looking at the family photos on my phone, I felt the weight of 15 years of deception. It had been necessary, but that didn't make it easier. I had watched them destroy everything our grandfather built, had pretended to be the family failure, while secretly working to preserve his true legacy. A soft knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. My nurse entered with my medication and a sympathetic smile. Your father left this, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a photo I hadn't seen in years. My grandfather and me, standing in front of his first building project. I was maybe 10 years old. On the back, in my grandfather's handwriting, to James who sees the value in everything. I smiled, tucking the photo away. It was time for the Davidson family empire to remember its roots. The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m., and thanks to modern technology, I could attend from my hospital bed. My doctors weren't thrilled, but they agreed after my legal team explained the stakes involved. A large screen was set up in my private room, showing the Davidson Industries boardroom in real time. The scene was exactly what I'd expected. 20 board members, most of them father's old golf buddies, sat around the massive table. Amanda and Peter huddled at one end, whispering furiously while checking their phones. Father occupied his usual seat at the head of the table, though not for much longer. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, standing at the opposite end. As acting CEO of Davidson Holdings LLC, I'm here to facilitate today's transition. Now see here, Father interrupted. This meeting was called to address an administrative error in our property holdings. I unmuted my connection. No error, Father. Marcus, please proceed. The board members startled at my voice coming through the speakers. The wall-mounted screen showed my hospital room feed. James, one of the older board members, Johnson, leaned forward. What's the meaning of this? We heard you were having surgery. I did. Triple bypass, successful. But there's no time like the present to correct 15 years of mismanagement. I nodded to Marcus. Show them. The presentation began, displaying chart after chart, document after document. Property acquisitions, investment patterns, development projects, all orchestrated through my network of companies. As the true scope of Davidson Holdings became clear, the room grew increasingly silent. "This is impossible," Peter finally sputtered. "These holdings, they're worth billions. $4.7 billion, to be exact," Marcus confirmed. "All acquired legally and developed sustainably over the past 15 years. While Davidson Industries focused on short-term profits, Mr. James Davidson was rebuilding his grandfather's vision." Amanda stood up, her voice shrill. "He can't just take over. We have shareholders, contracts." "Actually," I interrupted, "as of this morning, Davidson Holdings owns 51% of Davidson Industries voting shares, purchased slowly, through various subsidiaries, over the past decade. And as for contracts," I smiled, "check your lease agreement. This building belongs to Davidson Heritage Properties, my company." Father slammed his hand on the table. "This is preposterous. The board won't stand for this hostile takeover." "Hostile?" I raised an eyebrow. "Like how you and Peter orchestrated the takeover of Miller Construction last year, forcing out old Mr. Miller, who'd been grandfather's friend and business partner for 40 years. Speaking of which," I nodded to Marcus again. The screen changed to show security footage. Peter in various meetings, accepting envelopes, making deals that should never have been made. "The SEC might be interested in some of these recordings," I said quietly. "Unless, of course, the board votes to accept the new leadership structure I'm proposing." Johnson cleared his throat. "William," he said to my father, "I think we should listen to what James has to say." The next hour was a detailed presentation of my vision for the company. Restoration of the employee profit-sharing program that Peter had eliminated. Renewal of the community development initiatives. A return to the ethical business practices that had made my grandfather respected throughout the city. "This is what Davidson Industries was meant to be," I explained. "Not a machine for generating quarterly profits, but a force for positive change in our community. Check your tablets, you'll find the full proposal there, along with evidence of how current management has deviated from these principles." The board members began reading, their expressions growing increasingly grave. Peter's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. "There will be no layoffs," I continued, "no hostile takeovers. We're returning to grandfather's philosophy, grow by building up, not by tearing down." Amanda stood up again. "This is ridiculous. He abandoned the company 15 years ago. He can't just walk back in and miss." Davidson Marcus interrupted smoothly. "Perhaps you'd like to explain these documents we found during your impromptu sale of your brother's belongings." The screen showed photos of documents Amanda had tried to sell online, documents that revealed her own questionable financial dealings. She sat down abruptly. "I never abandoned the company," I said quietly. "I just chose a different path to save it. Now shall we vote on the new board structure?" The vote was quick and decisive. Even Father's most loyal supporters could see which way the wind was blowing. Within 30 minutes, Davidson Industries had a new CEO, a new board chairman, and a new direction. "One last thing," I added as the meeting wound down. "About the family mansion." Father's head snapped up. "You can keep living there," I said, "all of you. But the servants' quarters will be converted into a community center, as grandfather originally planned. And the groundskeeper's cottage, it's going to become a small business incubator for local entrepreneurs." "You can't," Father began. "I can, I do, and I will." I held up the photo he'd left earlier. "Grandfather taught me to see value in everything, Father. Even in failure. Even in being underestimated. I learned that lesson well." The meeting ended shortly after. As the board members filed out, many stopping to peer curiously at my screen, I could see the reality sinking in for my family. Their world hadn't just shifted mistet, it had completely transformed. Marcus stayed behind after everyone left. "Sir, shall I proceed with Phase 4? I nodded. "Yes, but first, please have someone check on Amanda and Peter's offices. I suspect they might be trying to delete some files." "Already handled, sir. Our IT team locked down the systems an hour ago." I smiled. "Then let's proceed. It's time to show everyone what Davidson Industries can really do." As the screen went dark, I leaned back against my pillows, exhausted but satisfied. The heart monitor beeped steadily, reminding me that I needed rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now I had accomplished what I set out to do 15 years ago. The empire was back in the right hands, and this time it would be run the right way. 1 month after my surgery, I stood at the window of my grandfather's old office now my office, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold. The bypass surgery scar was healing well, and in a way, so was the family. The changes had been swift but calculated. True to my word, no one had been fired. Though Peter had resigned rather than face an SEC investigation, Amanda had retreated to the family mansion, where she was surprisingly taking an interest in the new community center's development. Father, however, had surprised everyone. "You did exactly what I would have done," he said one evening, a week after the takeover. He'd shown up at my house. My real house, not the modest one they'd known about. With a bottle of scotch and grandfather's old ledger. "You outmaneuvered us all, and you did it legally. Just like I taught you." "No," I'd corrected him. "Just like grandfather taught me. You taught me about power. He taught me about purpose." Now, a month later, father had become an unexpected ally in the company's transformation. His old contacts proved valuable as we restructured partnerships and restored broken relationships. My phone buzzed in message from Marcus. "Sir, the Miller family is here." I smiled. This meeting had been 15 years in the making. Old Mr. Miller entered my office, leaning on his daughter Sarah's arm. At 78, he still had the sharp eyes I remembered from my childhood. "James Davidson," he said, looking around the office, "sitting in your grandfather's chair. Will wonders never cease?" "Mr. Miller," I gestured to the comfortable chairs by the window. "Thank you for coming. When I heard what you'd done, how you'd been building all this in secret." He shook his head. "Your grandfather would be proud. That's actually why I asked you here." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a folder. "I'd like to return Miller Construction to your family," Sarah gasped. "But Peter said the sale was final." "Peter didn't own what he sold." I handed them the documents. "I bought Miller Construction through a subsidiary the day after Peter forced you out. It's been held in trust, waiting for this moment." Old Mr. Miller's hands trembled as he read the papers. The same terms as before. The employee benefits, the apprenticeship program, all restored, with some improvements. I smiled. "The Miller-Davidson partnership will continue as our grandfathers intended." The meeting lasted another hour, filled with stories of the old days and plans for the future. As they left, Mr. Miller turned back. "Your grandfather once told me his biggest regret was not seeing who you'd become," he said quietly. "But he knew, somehow he knew you'd be the one." After they left, I walked through the building, noting how different it felt now. Employees no longer hurried away when leadership approached. The aggressive sales posters had been replaced by our new company mission statement: building value, building community. My phone buzzed again. "Amanda, this time, the community center's first-class graduates tomorrow. Will you come?" I texted back. "Wouldn't miss it." The sun had set completely now, leaving the city lit by thousands of twinkling lights. Somewhere out there, in a small apartment, a single mother was attending night classes in our new education program. In another building, a young entrepreneur was developing his business plan in our incubator space. And in the community center that used to be servants' quarters, people were learning skills that would change their lives. This was what real power looked like. Not the ability to tear down, but the strength to build up. My grandfather had taught me that lesson through his old ledger, the one father brought that night. In its pages I'd found not just business transactions, but stories of lives changed, communities lifted, and legacies built. The heart surgery scar twinged slightly as I reached for my coat, a reminder that sometimes healing requires pain, sometimes restoration demands sacrifice. But standing here now, in the house that my grandfather built and that I had reclaimed, I knew every moment of those 15 years had been worth it. My phone lit up one final time. A message from Marcus: "Sir, tomorrow's schedule is set. The Davidson Industries Renaissance begins." I smiled, turning off the office lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to rebuild and restore. But for now, in this moment, I was exactly where I needed to be. The empire hadn't just been reclaimed. It had been reborn.